You're a burden now, Mom. That's what my son told me, right after I pulled a fresh apple pie from the oven. Ever felt like your love just disappeared? Like the people you gave everything to no longer see you as a person, just a wallet? I paid for his college, skipped my dream trip to Greece, even funded my daughter's rent and designer bags. In return, they tried to use my name for loans and dragged me to court for financial neglect. I'm Evelyn Harper. I'm 69, and I froze the trust fund they thought they could bleed dry forever. It took decades, but I got my power back. Stick with me, and I'll show you how I turned betrayal into a courtroom win, how I stopped being their doormat, became a best-selling author, and built a life with people who actually see me. My son shoved me. My daughter shamed me online, but my granddaughter drew me as her hero. And that was the truth I needed to fight. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, don't scroll. What I'm about to share might just be the story you've waited your whole life to hear. Before we begin, I'd love to know a little bit about you. Are you watching this from home or somewhere else? Drop a 1 in the comments if you're cozy at home right now, or 2 if you're out and about. And tell me, who's the most important person in your life? I read every reply, I promise. Now, shall we take this journey together? My son's laugh wasn't just cruel, it erased me. Like I was never their mother, only their bank. The dining room smelled of apple pie, its cinnamon warmth curling through the air like a memory of better days. It was June 15th, 2024, in our St. Augustine home, and the chandelier hummed softly, casting shadows on crisp linen napkins. I'd spent the afternoon baking, rolling dough with hands that still remembered every curve of their childhood faces. Tonight, I thought, we'd be a family again. I set the pie on the table, its golden crust glistening. Ryan, my son, slouched in his chair, his sharp jaw tight, eyes flicking to his phone. At 38, he carried the weight of a failed startup, though he'd never admit it. Mia, my daughter, 35, toyed with her fork, her manicured nails catching the light. She'd been distant since I missed her 18th birthday for work, a wound I thought we'd healed. James, my husband of nearly 5 decades, sat at the table's end, his silver hair bent over his phone. At 70, he clung to routine, avoiding the regrets I knew lingered from my giving up art school for our family. "Looks delicious, Mom," Mia said, her smile thin, uneasy. I nodded, my heart lifting. Maybe tonight would be different. "I've been thinking," I said, slicing the pie, "about retiring. Maybe traveling. Greece, like I always dreamed." My voice was light, hopeful, a balloon floating above the table. Ryan snorted, his laugh sharp, slicing through the air. "Retire? You're a burden now, Mom." His words landed like a slap and the room froze. Mia giggled, a nervous, high-pitched sound, her hand covering her mouth too late. James didn't look up, his thumb scrolling, the soft tap of his screen louder than my heartbeat. My smile cracked, the pie's sweetness souring in my throat. I gripped the knife, its handle cool, steadying me. I just thought... I started, but Ryan waved a hand, dismissing me like a child. "Come on, Mom," he said, leaning back, his smirk practiced. "What would you do without us to take care of? You've got the easy life." Mia's giggle faded, her eyes darting to Ryan, then me. She wanted to fit in, to be his ally, even if it meant cutting me down. I served the pie, my hands steady despite the tremor in my chest. The chandelier's hum mocked me, a reminder of the installments I'd paid while Ryan was in college, debt-free because of me. Did they even know? Did they care? The plates clinked as I passed them out, the conversation shifting to Ryan's new car, Mia's promotion. James mumbled about golf. I sat, my slice untouched, the warmth of the room turning cold. Ryan's words, "You're a burden," looped in my mind, each replay a fresh wound. I'd given them everything. College, cars, homes. I'd been their bank, not their mother. Love doesn't demand thanks, but it shouldn't feel like this. Invisible, erased. Later, I stood at the sink, scrubbing plates under hot water. The suds swirled, catching moonlight through the window. My hands trembled, remembering Ryan's college graduation, his hug, his whispered, "Thanks, Mom." Had that been real, or just another transaction? I'd paid his debts, thinking it was love. Mia's 8th birthday flashed next, me stuck at work, her tearful call. I'd apologized, but the rift lingered, buried under her smiles. The chandelier's hum followed me, a ghost of my sacrifices. I dried my hands, the dish towel rough against my skin. In the living room, Ryan and Mia laughed over a TV show, their voices carefree. James had retreated to his study, his phone's glow his only companion. They didn't need me. Not for love, not for pie, not for anything but money. I climbed the stairs, my legs heavy. In our bedroom, James snored softly, his phone on the nightstand. I sat on the bed's edge, staring at the ceiling, moonlight tracing cracks I'd never noticed. Ryan's laugh echoed, Mia's giggle trailing like an afterthought. Burden. The word sank into my bones, but something else stirred. A spark, small but fierce. I wasn't done yet. I'd show them I was more than their bank, more than their punchline. Hurt hardened into a quiet vow, a promise to myself under the moon's pale gaze. As I pulled the blanket over me, a sound drifted from downstairs, Ryan's voice, low, urgent, whispering to Mia. "We've got a plan to secure our future," he said, the words slipping through the floorboards like a secret meant to stay hidden. My breath caught, the spark in my chest flaring. Did I raise them, or did they erase me? Ryan's whispered plan echoed in my ears. What were they hiding? My tablet glowed with their greed. Every dollar they took was a piece of me gone. The next evening, I sat in my home office in St. Augustine, the air conditioner humming a low, steady drone. A coastal breeze slipped through a cracked window, stirring papers on my desk. The room was small, cluttered with old photos and files, a sanctuary where I'd balanced budgets and dreams for decades. Last night's dinner, Ryan's cruel laugh, Mia's nervous giggle, still stung, a wound I couldn't shake. I needed answers, not just feelings. I pulled my hidden tablet from the drawer, its screen cold under my fingers. The trust fund app loaded, a secret I'd kept from Ryan and Mia, thinking it was for their future. My chest tightened as the numbers appeared. Ryan's withdrawals flashed first, $3,000 for a Bahamas trip, $500 for a new watch. Mia's followed, $800 for spa days, $2,000 for designer bags. My sacrifices, their playground. I gripped the tablet, my knuckles whitening. These weren't emergencies. These were thefts, each dollar a betrayal of the years I'd poured into them. I leaned back, the chair creaking, and closed my eyes. A memory surfaced, sharp as glass. 10 years ago, Ryan's wedding loomed, a lavish affair he insisted on. I'd canceled my dream trip to Greece, the brochures still tucked in a drawer, their glossy islands mocking me. His smile at the altar had seemed so genuine, his hug warm. "Thanks, Mom," he'd whispered. But now, that smile felt fake, a mask for greed. I'd given up art school for them, too, trading paintbrushes for paychecks while James built his career. Never noticing my loss. Had they ever seen me? The breeze carried salt, grounding me. I opened my eyes, the tablet's glow harsh. Ryan's failed startup had left him scrambling, his pride tied to flashy toys. Mia's spa days hid her insecurity, the rift from her 18th birthday when I'd worked late, missing her celebration. I'd apologized, sent gifts, but her silence lingered. They didn't need me. They needed my money. Love shouldn't feel like a ledger, tallied and owed. But theirs did. I scrolled through the transactions, each one a cut. My thumb hovered over the freeze fund button, its red outline pulsing like a warning. I could stop them now, lock the account with a tap. My heart raced, anger edging out hurt. Not yet, I decided, my breath steadying. I needed proof, a plan. But soon, I'd be no one's bank. The tablet chimed, a bank alert flashing red. Ryan had tried another withdrawal, $5,000 pending approval. My jaw clenched, the air conditioner's hum now a roar in my ears. He hadn't even waited a day after mocking me. The breeze stirred again, papers fluttering like whispers of power. That dusty envelope in my closet came to mind, hidden under old tax files. I'd seen it months ago, unmarked, heavy. Maybe it held more than memories. Maybe it held leverage. I set the tablet down, its screen dimming. The hurt from last night deepened, but anger sharpened it, a blade I could wield. I wasn't just their mother, I was their keeper, and they'd forgotten that. Resolve settled in my chest, a quiet vow to protect what I'd built, what I'd sacrificed. Was I their mother, or just their bank? The bank alert flashed red, unanswered. How deep did their greed go? Ryan's hands didn't just shove me, they shattered my guilt. I was done begging for love. The next afternoon, sunlight slanted through my living room windows in St. Augustine, glinting off the oak table. Jazz drifted from a neighbor's porch, its lazy notes clashing with the storm in my chest. I stood by the couch, folding laundry, the scent of lavender detergent faint. Last night's tablet glow still burned in my mind. Ryan's withdrawals, Mia's spa days. Their greed was a weight, but that envelope in my closet called louder, like a heartbeat I couldn't ignore. The front door swung open, and Ryan strode in, his loafers scuffing the hardwood. At 38, his sharp jaw was set, eyes narrow with purpose. His failed startup had left him drowning in debt, but he wore entitlement like a badge. "Mom," he said, voice clipped, "I need cash, a business deal, big opportunity." I folded a towel, my hands steady. "No, Ryan." My voice was calm but firm. "I saw the trust fund. Your Bahamas trip, Mia's bags. No more." His face darkened, a flush creeping up his neck. "You're spying on me now?" He stepped closer, looming. The jazz outside jarred, a saxophone note gone sour. "That money's for family, Mom. You don't get to hoard it." "I'm not hoarding," I said, meeting his gaze. "I'm done paying for your toys." The words felt like stones, heavy but true. I'd paid his college debt, thinking it was love. No more. Ever been pushed? Not just by hands, but by someone you raised? Imagine giving up your dreams for them, only to be told you're in the way. If that hit something inside you, drop a 5 in the comments. Because what happens next, no one saw coming. Ryan's laugh was sharp, a blade. "You're stuck in the past, Mom." He shoved me, his hands hard against my shoulders. I stumbled, my hips slamming into the table's edge. Pain flared, but shock hit harder. The jazz wailed, the room spinning. My son, my boy, had raised his hands against me. "Get out," I whispered, gripping the table, my voice shaking but cold. Ryan froze, his eyes flickering, but he didn't apologize. He grabbed his phone from the couch and stormed out, the door slamming like a gunshot. I sank into a chair, my hip throbbing, anger rising like a tide. Ryan's shove wasn't just physical, it was a declaration. He didn't see me as his mother, only a hurdle to his greed. An hour later, I sat in a coffee shop, the espresso machine's bitter hum filling the air. Linda Brooks slid into the booth across from me, her silver hair catching the light. At 65, her eyes held a warmth tempered by her own battles, years estranged from her son, reconciled only after hard truths. She set her mug down, steam curling. "You look like you've seen a ghost, Evie." I told her about Ryan, the shove, the trust fund. My voice cracked, but anger steadied it. Linda leaned forward, her hands clasped. "You're not their ATM, Evie. I learned that the hard way with my boy. You gave them everything. College, homes. They don't get to demand your soul, too." Her words lit a fire in me, burning through the guilt I'd carried for years. Linda had fought for her son's respect and won. I could, too. "What do I do?" I asked, my coffee untouched. "Take back your power," she said, her smile fierce. "You're Evelyn Harper, not their doormat." Back home, I stood in the living room, the jazz gone quiet, replaced by the hum of my resolve. I gripped the table, the bruise on my hip a reminder of Ryan's cruelty. His shove wasn't just an act, it was war. I wasn't begging for their love anymore. I'd fight for myself, for the woman I'd buried under their demands. As I tidied the couch, Ryan's phone caught my eye, left behind in his rush. The screen glowed with an email from a lender. Loan application pending, trust fund collateral. My breath caught, anger flaring anew. I'd never approved this. The envelope in my closet pulsed in my mind, its secrets closer now. Love doesn't shove you into silence. It lifts you to fight. The lender's email hinted at a loan I never approved. What was Ryan planning? Did I raise a son or a thief? Mia's words weren't just posts. They were knives, slicing me out of their story. But I wasn't fading yet. The next morning, moonlight faded on my kitchen counter in St. Ouen, Augustin, the coffee maker gurgling, its bitter scent curling through the air. I stood by the sink, my hands still sore from gripping the table after Ryan's shove yesterday. The bruise on my hip throbbed, a reminder of his cruelty, but that lender's email on his phone burned hotter in my mind. The envelope in my closet hummed with secrets, a pulse I couldn't ignore. I poured coffee, the mug warm against my palms. Linda Brooks would be here soon, her steady presence a lifeline after Ryan's betrayal. At 65, she'd faced her own family storms, years estranged from her son, reconciled only through hard-won boundaries. My phone lay silent, but Ryan's words, "You're stuck in the past," echoed, mingling with the ache of Mia's giggle at dinner. I'd missed her 18th birthday for work, a wound I thought we'd mended. Had I been wrong? The doorbell chimed, and Linda stepped in, her silver hair tucked under a scarf. She slid into a chair, her eyes sharp. "You're pale, Evie," she said, sipping her coffee. She pulled out her phone, her thumb scrolling. "You need to see this." She turned the screen to me. Mia's Instagram post stared back, a photo of her smiling at a cafe captioned, "Moms who cling to control need to let go." My breath caught, coffee turning bitter in my mouth. The post was public, a knife thrust before her thousands of followers. I flinched, remembering Mia's tearful call on her 18th birthday, my apologies drowned by her silence. She wanted approval, not from me, but from strangers online. "Mia," I whispered, my voice cracking. Linda's hand touched mine, steadying. "She's hurting, Evie, but that's no excuse," Linda said. "You paid for her car, her college. She doesn't get to rewrite you as the villain." We walked to the farmer's market, the air thick with fresh bread and salt from the nearby ocean. Stalls brimmed with peaches and tomatoes, voices haggling under striped awnings. Linda's scarf fluttered as she spoke. "You gave them everything. Ryan's debts, Mia's dreams. Take it back, Evie. You're not their shadow." Her words sparked something fierce in me. We paused by a bread stall, the vendor's laugh warm. I nodded, my jaw tight. "I need to know what they're hiding," I said. Linda's eyes gleamed, her own reconciliation fueling her fire. "Check that envelope you mentioned," she urged. "It's time." Back home, I knelt in my closet, the air musty with old files. My fingers found the unmarked envelope, heavy, sealed. I tore it open, trust fund documents spilling out. My name stood bold as the sole controller. Ryan and Mia's funds were mine to command. My heart raced, anger surging. They'd taken my money, my love, thinking I'd never notice. But I had power, more than they knew. I sank to the floor, papers in my lap. Mia's post flashed in my mind, her words a public betrayal. Ryan's shove, his secret loan email. They were erasing me, piece by piece. But I wasn't gone. Anger sharpened into a plan, a vow to confront their lies. My phone buzzed, a voicemail from Mia. I played it, her voice soft, trembling. "Mom, I didn't mean... I'm sorry." It cut off mid-sentence, a glitch or hesitation. My chest tightened, her remorse a flicker in the dark. But remorse didn't undo her post, her mockery. Love doesn't carve you out of its story. It fights to keep you whole. I clutched the documents, my resolve aflame. Mia's voicemail hinted at regret. But what was she hiding? Was I their mother or just their shadow? The papers didn't lie, but my children did. Their greed was written in black and white. The next day, I sat in Ms. Rachel Patel's office in St. Augustine, the leather chairs creaking under me. An ocean breeze slipped through a cracked window, carrying salt in the distant crash of waves. The trust fund documents from my closet lay on her desk, their edges curling like secrets too long kept. Mia's voicemail, her half-finished apology, echoed in my mind, but Ryan's shove and that lender's email burned hotter. I needed to know how deep their betrayal ran. Ms. Patel, in her 40s, adjusted her glasses, her dark hair pulled tight. Her precision calmed me, her drive for justice, an anchor. "I've reviewed the documents, Evelyn," she said, tapping the papers. "Ryan and Mia tried to leverage the trust fund for unauthorized loans, $50,000 each, using your name as collateral." My heart raced, anger flaring. "They didn't have your consent," she added, her voice steady. "You're in control, Evelyn. They can't touch it without you." I leaned back, the chair groaning. Ryan's Bahamas trips, Mia's spa days, they weren't just greed, they were fraud. I'd paid Ryan's college debt, canceled my Greece trip for his wedding, missed Mia's 18th birthday for work. Their betrayal wasn't just personal, it was a theft of my sacrifices. "What now?" I asked, my voice tight. "You decide," Miss Patel said, her eyes sharp. "Freeze the fund, file fraud reports, or both. You're not a victim." Her words hit like a spark, igniting empowerment over my anger. I wasn't their bank. I was their keeper, and they'd underestimated me. I left her office, the breeze cooling my flushed cheeks. At home, I stepped onto my porch, waves crashing softly below, jasmine blooming in pots. The trust fund documents weighed heavy in my bag, my shield against their lies. I sank into a wicker chair, the wood creaking, and pulled out my phone. A missed call from Sophie, my 15-year-old granddaughter, Ryan's daughter, blinked on the screen. I called her back, her voice bright through the static. "Grandma, I made something for you," she said, her excitement warming me. "It's a drawing of us. Remember your stories about painting?" She'd always loved my tales of art school, the dreams I'd traded for family. "You're my hero, Grandma," she added, softer. She'd mailed the drawing, a gift of loyalty that soothed my anger like a balm. I smiled, tears pricking my eyes. Sophie saw me, not as a bank, but as a woman, a role model. Her love contrasted Ryan's shove, Mia's post, a beacon in the storm. I hung up, the wave's rhythm steadying my breath. Ms. Patel's words, "You're in control," mingled with Sophie's, "You're my hero." Anger faded, replaced by empowerment, a fire to protect what I'd built. I clutched the documents, their ink a map of their greed. Ryan's failed startup had driven him to fraud, Mia's insecurity to public mockery. But I wouldn't break. I'd fight, not just for me, but for Sophie, for the woman I still was. Love doesn't steal, it guards what matters most. Back inside, I set the documents on my desk, the room dim. A letter slid from the pile, its envelope crisp, marked "Urgent Family Matters," from a lawyer I didn't know. My pulse quickened, the waves crash fading. I didn't open it, not yet, but its weight felt like a new threat looming. Did I give them everything, only to lose myself? The lawyer's letter sat unopened. What new threat was coming? One click froze their world. They never saw my strength coming. The following week, I sat in my office in St. Augustine, the tablet's glow humming like a heartbeat. The trust fund documents lay beside me, their ink a shield against Ryan and Mia's greed. The lawyer's letter from yesterday, unopened, marked "Urgent Family Matters," sat heavy on my desk, but I pushed it aside. Sophie's drawing, taped to the wall, showed us laughing, her pencil strokes a reminder of love that didn't demand my wallet. I was done being their bank, and today I'd prove it. I opened the trust fund app, my thumb steady over the freeze fund button. Ryan's Bahamas trips, Mia's spa days, their fraudulent loan attempts, they'd stolen enough. Miss Patel's words echoed. "You're in control, Evelyn." I tapped the button, the screen flashing confirmation. My heart soared, anger fueling a rush of empowerment. Their world would stop, and they'd feel it. By noon, gossip reached me through a neighbor's call. Ryan had been at a boutique downtown. His card declined for a $2,000 watch. "Fix this, Mom!" He'd raged into his phone, his voice carrying over clacking heels on marble floors. I pictured his flushed face, his entitlement crumbling before strangers. The shame he'd heaped on me at dinner, "You're a burden," mirrored back at him now. I didn't smile, but a weight lifted, liberation creeping in. The phone rang, Ryan's name flashing. I answered, leaning back in my chair, the tablet's glow dimming. "Mom," he said, his voice smooth, faking concern. "There's a bank glitch. My card got declined. Can you check?" I smirked, my voice light. "Retirement's exhausting, dear. I'll look into it later." I hung up before he could reply, my heart pounding with triumph. The breeze through the window carried salt, cooling my cheeks. I wasn't their doormat anymore. Ryan's desperation, tied to his startup debts, didn't sway me. He'd learn I wasn't his bank. That evening, I stepped into James's study. Bookshelves looming, the air quiet with dust and leather. At 70, he sat at his desk, his silver hair catching the lamp's glow. He'd been distant for years, my art school dreams sacrificed for his career, a regret he'd never voiced. But tonight, his eyes lifted, curious. "What's your plan, Evie?" he asked, setting his pen down. I leaned against the doorframe, the trust fund freeze a secret I wasn't ready to share. "I'm taking back what's mine," I said, my voice steady. His brow furrowed, but his gaze held respect, unlike the years when my sacrifices went unseen. "You're different," he said softly, a warmth I hadn't felt in decades. I nodded, empowerment settling deeper, tempered by his shift. Love doesn't demand silence, it demands to be seen. Back in my office, I checked my phone, a voicemail from Ryan waiting. His voice was low, edged with fury. "You'll regret this, Mom," he growled, the words sharp as knives. My pulse quickened, the tablet's hum fading. His threat hung in the air, a storm brewing. The trust fund documents were just the start of my fight, but his desperation hinted at something darker. Was I their mother or their meal ticket? Ryan's threat echoed in my ears. How far would he go? Ryan's hands didn't just tear my photo, they tore my heart. But I wasn't broken yet. The next day, I stood in my St. Augustine living room, the savory scent of grilled chicken wafting from the kitchen. A coastal breeze rustled the curtains, carrying salt and the faint hum of waves. The trust fund documents burned in my mind, their power a shield against Ryan's threat from yesterday. I'd frozen their funds, and now the storm was coming. Mia's voicemail and Sophie's drawing lingered, soft lights in the dark, but Ryan's lender email and that unopened lawyer's letter loomed heavier. The doorbell rang, sharp and insistent. Ryan barged in, his face flushed, eyes wild. At 38, his desperation clung to him like sweat, his failed startup driving him to control me. Mia trailed behind, her 35-year-old frame tense, her eyes darting. Her post, "Moms who cling to control," had cut deep, but her missed 18th birthday still haunted her, fueling her conflicted remorse. I straightened, my resolve unshaken, ready to affirm my worth. "Unfreeze the trust fund, Mom," Ryan demanded, his voice a growl. He paced, his loafers scuffing the hardwood. "You're screwing us over." I crossed my arms, the chicken scent souring in my throat. "I saw your loan attempts, Ryan, Mia's posts. You don't get to steal from me anymore." Ryan's laugh was bitter, his hand snatching an old family photo from the mantel, a faded snapshot of us at the beach, smiling, whole. "If your own child ripped your family photo in front of you, would it be the picture or your heart that shattered first. If you've ever been cut out of a story you built, drop a 6 in the comments. What happens next? Even I didn't see coming. You don't matter, he shouted, tearing the photo in half, the rip echoing like a gunshot. I gasped, my heart splintering as the pieces fluttered to the floor. Mia froze, her hand covering her mouth, tears welling. You broke us, not me, I said, my voice cold, steady. Ryan's eyes flickered, but he didn't back down, his aggression a wall. The breeze stilled, the room heavy with his cruelty. Mia stepped forward, her voice soft. Mom, Ryan cut her off, storming out, the door slamming. She lingered, her fingers trembling, then slipped a folded letter into my hand before fleeing. I clutched it, anger peaking, but her touch hinted at remorse. On a park bench later, seagulls crying overhead, I unfolded Mia's letter. I'm sorry, Mom. I was wrong, she wrote, her words shaky. I let Ryan lead me. I want to fix this. My chest tightened, her remorse mending a crack in my heart. My phone buzzed. Sophie, my 15-year-old granddaughter, her voice bright. I'm with you, Grandma, she said. You're stronger than they know. Her loyalty, rooted in my stories, was a beacon, softening my anger. I walked home, seagulls fading, resolve growing. In the living room, James stood by the torn photo, his 70-year-old frame tense. He'd missed my art school sacrifice years ago, but now his eyes held regret. Enough, Ryan, he said, though Ryan was gone, his voice steady for me. Linda Brooks, beside him, nodded, her 65-year-old face fierce. Her estrangement from her son mirrored mine, her reconciliation fueling her support. You're not alone, Evie, she said, her hand on my shoulder. Love doesn't tear you apart. It stitches you back together. I sat at my desk, the tablet's hum returning. A recorded call had synced from Ryan's phone, left behind yesterday. I played it, his voice low, plotting with a lender. We'll get the fund another way. My pulse raced, resolve hardening. His cruelty, tearing my photo, fractured our bond, but Mia, Sophie, James, and Linda strengthened me. Did I raise them, or did they erase me? The recorded call revealed Ryan's new scheme. How much deeper did his betrayal go? Their lies were kindling, and I was the spark. My truth would burn brighter than their greed. The following week, I sat in Ms. Rachel Patel's office in St. Augustine, the leather chairs creaking as I shifted. A sea breeze slipped through an open window, carrying salt and the faint roar of the ocean. The trust fund documents lay on her desk, my torch ready to light the courtroom. Ryan's recorded call, plotting more fraud, still rang in my ears, his torn photo a scar on my heart. Mia's letter of remorse and Sophie's loyalty held me steady, but the unopened lawyer's letter gnawed at me. I was done being their victim. Ms. Patel, her dark hair pinned neatly, scanned the documents, her 40s lending her a calm authority. We're filing fraud reports today, she said, her pen tapping. Ryan and Mia's loan attempts are clear violations. You're protected, Evelyn. Her confidence fueled mine, her drive for justice a mirror to my own. I nodded, my jaw tight. Ryan's shove, his cruel words, "You don't matter," had pushed me here. I'd affirm my worth, not just for me, but for the years I'd given them. Let's do it, I said, my voice firm. Ms. Patel smiled, a rare warmth breaking her precision. You're a force, Evelyn, she said, signing the forms. My heart swelled, anger at Ryan's betrayal shifting to resolve. I wasn't their bank, I was their reckoning. Back home, I stepped onto my porch, waves crashing below, jasmine pots blooming sweet. The sun dipped low, painting the sky gold. I pulled a copy of the trust fund document from my bag, its paper crisp. Ryan's Bahamas trips, Mia's spa days, they'd stolen my sacrifices, but no more. I struck a match, the flame hissing, and held it to the paper. It curled, blackening, ashes drifting into the breeze. My chest lightened, empowerment surging as the waves roared approval. I wasn't just fighting, I was free. My phone rang, Ryan's name flashing. I answered, the ashes still warm in my hand. "What are you doing, Mom?" he screamed, his voice raw. "You're useless, ruining everything." The words stung, but I stood tall, the porch creaking under me. "I'm done paying for your life, Ryan," I said, my tone icy. I hung up, his abuse echoing but powerless. The audience in my mind, women like me, 55 and over, would rage at his cruelty, but I felt unshaken, my resolve a flame he couldn't douse. Later, I walked to a restaurant downtown, jazz humming softly, glasses clinking in the warm light. Linda Brooks sat across from me, her silver hair glowing, her 65 years carrying the weight of her reconciled estrangement. "You're glowing, Evie," she said, her fork pausing over grilled salmon. "What's next?" I sipped my water, the ice clinking. "I'm fighting," I said, "but I want more. I want to tell my story." Linda's eyes lit up, her own journey sparking her vision. "Write a memoir," she urged. "Tell your truth, Evie. Women like us need it." Her words landed deep, a call to share my pain and power. I nodded, the idea taking root. Before leaving, I scribbled a postcard to Ryan and Mia. "Enjoy your bills." I dropped it in a mailbox outside, waves crashing in the distance, echoing my defiance. Linda hugged me, her scarf soft against my cheek. "You're unstoppable," she whispered, her pride a mirror to Sophie's. At the restaurant's bar, James joined us, his 70-year-old frame easing into a stool. His silver hair caught the jazz's glow, his eyes warm with pride I hadn't seen in years. He'd missed my art school sacrifice, but now he saw me. "To your strength, Evie," he toasted, raising his glass. The jazz swelled, clinking glasses blending with his words. My heart warmed, his support healing the distance of decades. I was ready for court, for whatever Ryan and Mia threw next. Love doesn't dim your light, it kindles it. "Back home," Ms. Patel called, her voice crisp. "Ryan and Mia filed a lawsuit," she said. "They're claiming financial neglect." My breath caught, the jazz's echo fading. The trust fund documents were my shield, but their lies were a storm cloud gathering. Anger fueled my resolve, empowerment steadying me for the fight ahead. Was I their mother or their scapegoat? The lawsuit warning landed like a storm cloud. What lies would they spin in court? Mia's posts painted me as a villain, but truth doesn't need a filter. It cuts like a blade. The next month, I sat in my home office in St. Augustine, the tablets glow, humming softly, casting shadows on my desk. The trust fund documents, my torch for the courtroom, lay stacked beside me, their ink a promise of freedom. Ryan's lawsuit for financial neglect loomed, his recorded call, plotting fraud, still chilling my spine. Mia's letter of remorse had softened me, but her silence since then gnawed. Sophie's drawing and James' toast kept me grounded, but I needed to face their lies head on. I opened my tablet, checking for updates from Ms. Patel. Instead, a notification pinged, Mia's new Instagram post. My heart sank as I clicked. Her photo, smiling at a wine bar, was captioned, "Broke mom abandons us. Family first, always." The words seared, a public shaming before thousands. My blood boiled, fingers trembling. I replayed Ryan's call from his phone, synced weeks ago. "She owed us, man," he'd told a lender, justifying their fraud. Their lies, Mia's post, Ryan's words, were a double betrayal, stripping me bare for the world to judge. I stood, pacing, the tablet's hum fading. Mia's desperation to save face clashed with her remorse, her missed 18th birthday fueling her need for approval. Ryan, unrepentant, leaned on his failed startup's debts to excuse his greed. Their lies evoked a rage in me, but I stayed focused, anger sharpening into resolve. I wasn't their villain, I was their truth. At noon, I met Ms. Rachel Patel at a park bench, seagulls crying overhead, their wings slicing the salt-heavy air. Her 40s lent her a sharp edge, her briefcase brimming with evidence. "We've got them, Evelyn," she said, spreading ledgers, chats, and trust fund documents. "Ryan's loan attempts, Mia's texts begging for money. They're undeniable." I traced a ledger line. $5,000 for Ryan's watch, $2,000 for Mia's bags. Truth stacked like armor, each page a shield against their lawsuit. The seagull's cries urged me on, my resolve calm, strategic. "File it all," I said, my voice steady. Ms. Patel nodded, her pen scratching notes. "The court date's set," she said. "You're ready." Her precision ensured justice, a lifeline I clung to. I'd given them everything. College, homes, my art school dreams, but their greed wouldn't break me. Anger ebbed, replaced by a quiet strength to affirm my worth. Later, I drove to Sophie's house, her bedroom glowing with posters, soft pop music playing. At 15, my granddaughter saw me as a role model, her love for my stories, a bridge across generations. She hugged me tight, her hair smelling of strawberry shampoo. "You're enough, Grandma," she said, her voice firm. "Don't let Dad or Mom make you feel small." Her words mended my heart, her loyalty a stark contrast to Ryan's cruelty. I smiled, tears pricking my eyes, the music softening the air. We sat on her bed, her hand in mine. "You remind me why I'm fighting," I said, squeezing her fingers. Sophie grinned, her eyes bright. "You're my hero," she said, echoing her drawing's gift. Her faith fueled me, resolve hardening like steel. Mia's post, Ryan's justification, they'd shamed me. But Sophie saw me whole. Love doesn't lie. It holds you up when the world tries to tear you down. Back home, I found a court date notice in my mail stamped in bold ink. My pulse quickened, the seagull's cries fading in memory. The tablet's hum returned, grounding me. Mia's desperation, Ryan's unrepentant greed, Ms. Patel's precision, Sophie's loyalty. They all pointed to the courtroom, where truth would cut through their lies. Did I give them love, or just leverage? The court date loomed like a tidal wave. Would truth be enough? I didn't just burn their trust fund, I burned their hold on me. Freedom tasted like ash and sea salt. The next week, I stood in my St. Augustine living room, the air thick with tension, a coastal breeze barely stirring the curtains. The trust fund documents my torch through months of betrayal lay in my hands, their weight a promise of victory. Ryan's recorded fraud, Mia's defamatory posts, their lawsuit for financial neglect, all led to this moment. Sophie's loyalty and James' pride anchored me, but the court date's bold ink drove me forward. I was ready to redefine my worth. Ryan and Mia arrived, the doorbell's chime sharp. Ryan, 38, stormed in, his face flushed, eyes blazing with entitlement despite his startup's ruin. Mia, 35, followed, her shoulders hunched, remorse clashing with fear of rejection. Her missed 18th birthday lingered between us, her posts a fresh wound. I held the trust fund document, its paper crisp, my voice steady. "Your fund's gone," I said, striking a match. The flame hissed, catching the edge. I burned it before them, ashes drifting to the hardwood. Ryan snarled, "You owed us!" His voice raw, a final justification that stung but didn't sway me. Mia gasped, tears falling, her hands trembling. "You stole from me," I said, my gaze unwavering. "My sacrifices, my love, you took it all." Ryan's jaw clenched, but Mia's sob broke the silence, her remorse a crack in their united front. The breeze stilled, the room heavy with their shame. I felt triumphant, my resolve peaking, their hold on me crumbling like the document's ashes. The courtroom loomed later that day, its polished wood gleaming, an ocean breeze slipping through a cracked window. Ms. Rachel Patel, in her 40s, stood beside me, her confidence lethal, her drive for justice ironclad. The judge, a woman in her 50s, her gray hair pulled tight, eyed the room with sharp fairness. Ryan slouched in his seat, his suit rumpled, anger simmering. Mia trembled, her eyes red, her remorse evident but overshadowed by their lies. Mrs. Patel presented our evidence, ledgers of Ryan's watch, Mia's bags, chats begging for money, recordings of Ryan's fraud. "Evelyn Harper owes no financial duty to her adult children," she said, her voice clear. "Their claims are baseless. their actions fraudulent. Ryan slumped, his entitlement deflating. Mia's hands shook, her head bowed. The judge's pen scratched, her face unreadable. "The evidence is clear," she said, her gavel cracking. "Judgment for Ms. Harper. Damages awarded." Truth won, my liberation surging like the ocean outside. Outside the courthouse, the breeze cooled my cheeks, salt mingling with my tears. Ryan stormed off, unrepentant, his footsteps fading. Mia lingered, her eyes pleading, but I walked away, my heart light. I was free, my worth affirmed, no longer their bank or scapegoat. The audience in my mind, women like me, 55 and over, would cheer, their outrage at Ryan's cruelty satisfied by justice. Love doesn't chain you, it sets you free to choose. At home, a letter waited, Mia's handwriting shaky. "Can we talk, Mom?" it pleaded, her remorse raw, seeking reconciliation. My fingers trembled, holding it, liberation tempered by her words. Sophie's loyalty, James' pride, Linda's vision, they'd carried me here, but Mia's plea tugged at my heart. Ryan's defeat tied to his debts was final, but Mia's path wasn't closed. Was I their mother or their mirror? Mia's letter trembled in my hand. Would I let her back in? Their house sold, but I built mine, brick by brick, choice by choice. No chains, just freedom. The next month, I stood in my new beach house in St. Augustine, jasmine scenting the air, waves lapping gently below. The trust fund's end, burned to ashes in my living room, marked my beginning, a life I chose for myself. Ryan's defeat in court, Mia's unanswered plea, and the damages awarded had severed old ties. Sophie's loyalty, James' pride, and Linda's vision were my new foundation. A family forged by love, not obligation. I'd bought the house with court damages and my 48% share of Ryan's house sale. No co-signers, just me. The walls glowed white. The hardwood gleamed, and wide windows drank in the ocean. I ran my fingers over the kitchen counter, its cool granite a promise of new meals, new memories. Jasmine bloomed in pots outside, their fragrance sweet, my new start. I smiled, liberation solidifying, my heart whole. No more bank, no more burden, just Evelyn Harper, free. In the living room, I held a frame, Ryan's email inside. "I miss you." His words, sent after the lawsuit, were hollow, a plea for his old safety net. I'd carved above it, "Absence teaches more than presence," each letter etched with a knife-steady hand. Linda Brooks and Sophie Carter arrived, their laughter filling the room. Linda, 65, her silver hair loose, clapped her hands, her joy reflecting her own reconciled past with her son. "It's perfect, Evie," she said, her eyes bright. Sophie, 15, hugged me, her ponytail swinging. "It's so you, Grandma," she said, her loyalty a gift, seeing me as a role model through my stories. They cheered as I hung the frame above the fireplace, the wood creaking softly. The carving gleamed, a symbol of my severed ties with Ryan, my redefined worth. My chest warmed, joy mingling with liberation, their laughter a song I'd never tire of. That evening, we drove to a community center, warm lights glowing, jazz humming through the air. James waited inside, his 70-year-old frame leaning against a pillar, his silver hair catching the light. His love had healed the distance of my art school sacrifice, his pride now a daily gift. He took my hand, leading me to the dance floor, the jazz swelling, saxophone notes smooth as silk. "You're my hero, Evie," he whispered, his voice low, cherishing my resilience. We swayed, my cheek against his shoulder, the music wrapping us tight. Sophie joined, giggling, her sneakers scuffing as she twirled beside us. The crowd clapped, their smiles soft, but my world was here. James, Sophie, Linda nearby sipping coffee. My family, chosen, real, bound by love, not greed. Peace settled deep, my liberation complete, warmed by their joy. Love doesn't bind you. It builds a home where you belong. Back at the beach house, I found a thick envelope on my desk, my memoir draft inside, titled Unpaid Dues. Its pages held my truth, Ryan's abuse, Mia's defamation, my fight for worth. My pulse quickened, the wave's lullaby fading. Linda's vision had sparked it, Sophie's faith had fueled it, and now it was done, a testament to my journey. Did I lose a family or find myself? The memoir draft sat heavy with truth. Would the world hear my story? I didn't just retire, I rewrote my life. The ocean sang my name, and I answered. The following month, I stood on my beach house porch in St. Augustine, waves crashing below, stars glittering above. The trust fund's end, its ashes scattered months ago, was my freedom's start. A legacy of truth built from Ryan's betrayal and Mia's remorse. My memoir, Unpaid Dues, sat complete, its pages a testament to my fight. Sophie's loyalty, James' love, and Linda's pride were my family now, chosen, unshakable. At the community center that morning, I mentored a group of women, their faces lined with years of giving. Coffee scented the air, laughter echoing as I shared my story. Ryan's shove, Mia's posts, the courtroom victory. You don't need their permission to be free, I said, my voice steady. Their hopeful eyes mirrored mine. Their nods, a spark of empowerment. My legacy lived in their courage, maternal love redefined not by sacrifice, but by strength. Joy filled me, liberation peaking as their hands clasped mine. That evening, I hosted my 69th birthday on the porch, the waves' rhythm a lullaby. Linda Brooks, 65, raised a glass, her silver hair glowing under string lights. To Evie, unstoppable, she toasted, her pride echoing her own reconciled journey. Sophie, 15, hugged me tight, her loyalty a gift, her inspiration carrying my strength forward. "You're my hero, Grandma," she whispered, her voice warm. James, 70, stood beside me, his hand in mine, his love healing decades of distance. His smile cherished my triumph, his presence a quiet vow. I touched the freedom-bought pendant at my neck, its silver cool, a symbol of my journey. The stars blinked, the ocean roared, and peace settled deep, my heart whole. Ryan's absence, Mia's unanswered plea, they no longer weighed me down. My family was here, real, bound by joy, not greed. Later, alone, I checked my tablet. The waves crash, steady outside. Unpaid Dues had published online, its words, my truth, a hit among women like me. Comments poured in. You gave me hope. I'm not alone. I smiled, tears falling, whispering, did I raise them or myself? The ocean answered, its voice eternal. I stepped into the surf, water cool against my ankles, free, my story complete. Love doesn't end. It grows, rooting where you choose to plant it. Did I raise them or did I raise myself? The ocean hadn't stopped singing my name, even months after I stepped into its surf. It was a melody of freedom, one I carried into every new dawn. 6 months after my 69th birthday, I stood on the same St. Augustine beach house porch, the morning sun painting the waves gold. The freedom-bought pendant rested cool against my collarbone, its weight a quiet reminder of the trust fund ashes, Ryan's severed ties, and Mia's unanswered plea. Unpaid Dues had become more than a memoir. It was a beacon, its words rippling across book clubs and online forums, touching women who'd felt invisible, like me. Sophie's laughter, James' steady hand, and Linda's fierce pride were my anchors. But the world beyond my porch called now, urging me to share more than pages. I sipped coffee, its steam curling in the crisp air, and watched a gull soar, its cry sharp against the waves' hum. My mentorship at the community center had grown, the room now packed with women, divorcees, widows, mothers like me, who sought financial freedom. Their stories echoed mine, years of giving, erased by those they loved. You showed me I'm enough, one said last week, her hand squeezing mine. Their courage fueled mine, a legacy of empowerment I hadn't planned but couldn't stop. Peace warmed my chest, but a new restlessness stirred. I wasn't done building. At noon, I drove to the community center, coffee's scent lingering in my car. The lot buzzed with women arriving, their chatter bright. Linda Brooks met me at the door, her 65-year-old frame vibrant, her silver hair tucked under a scarf. "Evie, they're waiting," she said, her eyes gleaming. Her own reconciled estrangement drove her to support my work, her joy infectious. Inside, I stood before 30 women, their faces eager. "Money isn't just dollars," I began, my voice steady. "It's your voice, your choice. Don't let anyone silence it." I shared my story, Ryan's shove, Mia's posts, the courtroom's gavel. They nodded, some wiping tears, others scribbling notes. My liberation, once solitary, now sparked theirs, a chain of strength. Sophie arrived mid-session, her 15-year-old ponytail swinging, her backpack slung over one shoulder. "Grandma, I brought something," she whispered, slipping me a flyer. It announced a local art showcase, her school's project, with a slot for guest speakers. "Talk about your art school days," she urged, her eyes bright. She saw me as a role model, her loyalty a bridge to my past dreams. I hugged her, the flyer crinkling. "I will," I promised, joy swelling. Teaching wasn't just about money, it was about reclaiming every piece of myself. That evening, James and I walked the beach, waves lapping at our bare feet. At 70, his silver hair glowed under the sunset, his hand warm in mine. "You're unstoppable, Evie," he said, his voice low, healing the years I'd sacrificed to art school for his career. "What's next?" he asked, squeezing my fingers. I paused, sand cool between my toes. "I want to paint again," I said, the words surprising me, "and keep teaching, writing, living." He smiled, his pride a light I'd missed for decades. Our chosen family, Sophie, Linda, James, was my home, but my heart stretched further now. The next day, I visited a local art supply store, its air sharp with paint and canvas. I bought brushes, oils, a small easel, my fingers trembling with excitement. At home, I set up in the beach house's spare room, sunlight streaming through wide windows. My first stroke, blue, bold, felt like breathing again. I painted the ocean, its waves a mirror to my freedom. Sophie stopped by, her gasp soft. "It's beautiful, Grandma," she said, sitting cross-legged on the floor. We talked, her school, my stories, her inspiration fueling my brush. The canvas grew, a piece of my past reborn, a gift for her future. A week later, I spoke at Sophie's art showcase, the auditorium packed with students and parents. I wore my pendant, its silver gleaming under stage lights. "I gave up art school for family," I said, my voice clear. "But dreams don't die, they wait." I shared my journey, Ryan's greed, Mia's betrayal, my memoir's truth. The crowd leaned in, Sophie beaming in the front row. "You're never too old to start again," I finished, holding up my ocean painting. Applause erupted, their cheers a wave lifting me. Liberation peaked, joy and peace entwined. My legacy not just in words, but in color, in courage. That night, I checked my tablet, the waves crashed steady outside. Unpaid dues had climbed bestseller lists, its royalties funding a scholarship for women over 50 at a local college. Emails flooded in, readers, mentors, even a publisher wanting a sequel. I smiled, but my heart stayed with the women I taught, the paint on my hands, Sophie's flyer. Ryan's absence was final, his startup debts his own. Mia's letter remained unanswered, her remorse a door I might open later, but not now. My life was mine, full, free. At dawn, I walked the beach, the horizon endless, stars fading into pink. I thought of the years I'd given, Ryan's college, Mia's car, my art school dreams. They hadn't broken me, they'd forged me. I touched my pendant, whispering, did I raise them or myself? The ocean roared back, its answer clear. I stepped into the surf, water cool against my ankles, my story not an end but a beginning. Love doesn't stop. It grows, planting seeds for those who come after. As I stood in the surf, the ocean's song wrapped around me, a lullaby of freedom earned through battles I never thought I'd fight. From Ryan's cruel shove to Mia's remorseful plea, my journey taught me that love doesn't mean losing yourself. It means choosing who lifts you up. In life, family bonds are precious, but they thrive only when rooted in respect and gratitude. Like a quilt stitched with care, our connections mend when we listen and forgive, but sometimes we must let go to grow. My heart, once heavy, now soars with Sophie's laughter and James' steady hand, proof that love finds its way back when we honor our worth. If this story touched you, please share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your story. Your voice matters, and together we weave a tapestry of hope.